pinch me, because I've played Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Nintendo recently invited me down to their offices to get hands-on with the game, which was a very surreal experience for numerous reasons, not least because this is a game we Metroid fans have been waiting for since its reveal in 2017. And oh, I have thoughts. I also have theories. So, I'm Sai, this is What Culture Gaming, and here are 7 things I learned playing Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. This feels like a sequel to Prime 3. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is one of the most anticipated releases of the last however many decades. It's releasing in the same year as Silksong and Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, so it's a good year for it, I guess. And with so much wait time between Prime 3 and 4, it would be easy to let your imagination get away from you. Suffice to say, I have a lot of positive things to say about my Metroid Prime 4 experience, but stating up front, it's worth pointing out this isn't a game that's necessarily going to leave you dumbfounded. It's not a revolution, it's a sequel to 2007's Metroid Prime 3 Corruption that just so happens to be coming nearly 20 years later. As such, it feels exactly like that. The controls are comfortable, old school even, and incredibly familiar. All the elements are here, the targeting, the scanning, the moving in and out of Morph Ball, the lot. Heck, the game uses all of the same familiar sound effects you remember, and I found myself smiling at every last one. I think whilst I was surprised at how, pun unintended, retro it sort of felt, it was kind of refreshing. Maybe a part of my brain was worried that they were going to attempt to modernize things, not necessarily chase trends, but tweak things and go too far with it, but that doesn't appear to be the case. Beyond starts with that attack on the Galactic Federation base as seen in the announcement trailer, which is a hell of an opening, and when you touch down in Fury Green, the lush forested first area of the game, the pace grinds down to a halt in a good way. You're incentivized to take your time, drink it all in, and get back to grips with things. And I was sort of stunned by how I was simply playing a new Metroid Prime game. Obviously, there's definitely more to come, like the bike, we'll get there, and probably some surprises up retro sleeves as well. But it really did feel like we were playing something that had been unearthed and released by the studios that we should have gotten years ago. And when I got my sea legs back under me, I was really grateful for that. The game looks great. Whilst it's still stylized to some degree, Metroid is definitely the Nintendo first-party IP that gets the closest to realism. Therefore, it's easy to make the case that it has a tougher challenge being visually impressive. Stylization does a hell of a lot for games like Tears of the Kingdom, but it's so much easier for the cracks to show in Metroid, and for it to be unfairly compared to other games of its ilk running on more powerful hardware. I'm very confident in reaffirming, though, that Metroid Prime 4 is one of the best looking Nintendo games ever. And so it should be. After all, it's one of the very few Switch 2 games released by the company themselves so far, and it's reportedly the most expensive Nintendo game ever. Of course, Beyond is also being released on the original Switch, so I'm very intrigued to see how that compares. Metroid Prime 4 never completely shocked me with its graphical fidelity, but it was nice to see Nintendo hit this here to otherwise unreached threshold, and to do so with my beloved Metroid. I largely played in quality mode, so experiencing 4K Metroid was a joy. The game also makes great use of scope, both horizontally and vertically. I found myself looking up at huge trees overhead and out into the horizon into a mysterious forested vista. Special mention needs to be made to the Galactic Base Assault though, because it is designed to wow you and does so spectacularly. Getting to play through this as a kind of tutorial is a really great way to start the game. Rain runs down Samus's visor, buildings explode in the distance, and the whole thing feels like a statement of intent. The game also features a 120 frames per second performance mode, but honestly, cards on the table, I couldn't see a difference. I'm not particularly good at seeing a difference with these things, so I'm not going to talk about it. I'll leave that for someone who does know what they're talking about to get into, rather than waste your time. That said, something I definitely know about is the atmosphere. For my money, one of the most important things Metroid Prime 4 needs to get right is the series' signature sense of atmosphere, a mix of wonder and unease as you explore an alien world and make sense of it. That isolated journey through the unknown, piecing together the story and the rules for the world is central to what makes Metroid great. and Prime 4 absolutely nails it. My biggest takeaway of the whole experience was not just the game feel, but hitting those tonal cues. Fury Green is much grander than any Prime location before it, but it's also got so much detail. Spores and dust float through the air, light pours through the trees, local insects walk by Samus as she scours through the undergrowth in gorgeous 4K, all whilst a wonderful melancholic track plays. For context, I'm recording this almost a week after the event and I can still recall the theme for Fury Green in my head. It's really familiar, not just tonally, but also instrumentally, and it feels like it's designed to generate those warm and fuzzy nostalgic feelings. It's really good. And of course, it's just the beginning. If this is an indication of what the soundtrack has overall, it's going to be another great addition to your Metroid ambience playlist. The psychic powers are a catch-all feature. One of the new gimmicks for Metroid Prime 4 are Samus's mysterious psychic powers. The trailers shown so far hint at it, but essentially every puzzle in the opening area relied on Samus's new psychic abilities. The most simple of these are moving objects to open doors, be that like a lever or grabbing a nearby psychic orb to plug into an activation node. The most interesting though is the new psychic control beam that slows down time when fired. If you've played Skyward Sword, you'll remember the flying beetle mechanic, and it's not really unlike that at all. You take command of the charge beam and sort of pilot it to its destination, whether that's solving a puzzle or indeed in combats. The boss fight towards the end of Fury Green forces players to get to grips with this ability, a plant monster that requires synchronized destruction of its tentacles to expose the weak point. This means breaking off the armor with blaster and missiles, and then using the control beam to weave around the vines and hit its vulnerable points. It was pleasantly challenging. It feels as though the psychic powers Samus possesses could be explored in a myriad of ways, and it's just a handy way to pull a bunch of different ideas together. The general theme is definitely kinetic so far, but just these three are kind of entirely separate from each other. Of course, in classic Metroidvania fashion, there were things to do in Fury Green that I couldn't interact with yet, so presumably you'll be coming back later with psychic powers to figure these things out. Samus's new companion is going to be Divisive. Yes, she has a new companion. Actually, she might have more than one. Midway through exploring Fury Green, Samus comes across Miles Mackenzie, a Galactic Federation engineer who's in need of saving from aggressive local wildlife. Prime 4 follows the lead of 3 and Dread, you'll be glad to hear, with characters talking at Samus rather than engaging in a two-way conversation. That is to say, I didn't hear her speaking in the game, she was just kind of motioning to things and taking direct action. That means that Miles just kind of speaks uninterrupted sometimes. He can check in on you as you make progress, and the two establish a home base in Fury Green. As with Adam in previous games, he's essentially a guide for the player. Unlike Adam, he partakes in slapstick humour by falling off of things and slots into the amusing coward character archetype. Expect a wave of hatred to come for this character when the game drops. The writing feels really out of place. I mean, in his first appearance, he describes something as win, which is very 2007 coded, but he did get a few sort of wry laughs out of me at the same time, so it's going to be a Marmitey one for sure. I think most interestingly though, there's a section where you have to defend him from taking too much damage, and he has an engineer symbol next to his life bar, which to me feels like it implies saving multiple soldiers all over the game's world, which might at least mean we don't have to listen to this one guy non-stop for the whole game. Nintendo are hesitant to show Viola. I think everyone had a pretty similar reaction to Samus getting on a motorbike in one of the trailers for Metroid Prime 4, which even if you thought was cool, you surely were also thinking, wait, what? And to a certain extent, we're still asking that question. The best guesses about it being used to traverse an open world segment are pretty much a sure thing, but we have very little else to go on beyond that. And what we've seen of it from pre-release trailers have left many people concerned. And I can't help but wonder how Nintendo feels about it too, because our time with the game seemed to deliberately avoid it. A rep at the event, however, did interestingly describe the Viola portion of the game as being like Ocarina of Time's Hyrule Field. The game has a series of dungeons where most of the action takes place, and then there's the field between them, which is an interesting choice of comparison, certainly. So yes, suffice to say, I'm as curious as all of you to know more about it, considering I now own an amiibo of the dang thing, and we've seen, 20 seconds of footage in trailers of it? I have a feeling it's either going to be great or terrible. And finally, we might be getting a mech. Now, this one is purely theory. In the game's opening area, the Galactic Federation deploy a Golem-class mech to fight off the attack. It's a high-octane moment in a high-octane set-piece. I remember this well because they stop and it became my surface of choice for going up to and firing at to see if I could see Samus's reflection in her visor like the old games. You totally can, by the way. So that's good. And whilst exploring Fury Green with Miles, you come across one of the, if not the very same mech, just randomly plonked in the forest. Miles makes a very big deal of this, recognizing it instantly as Betsy, and he starts nerding out over it. He, and this whole scene, definitely seems to imply that the machine can be repaired. What this means exactly, I don't know. Is this a different vehicle for the so-called open world segments? Is this just a device to get us from point A to point B in a cutscene? Or are there fully playable mech levels? Considering the level of breakneck energy in the game's opening that slows down when you get to the exploration side of things, it wouldn't be terribly surprising if these are one way for the game's action to ramp up and to offer some variety. Perhaps you'll find a pilot out in the field to assist you in some fashion, or indeed, Samus will get in the mech herself. But I think it goes without saying that there's no way that this is just in the game's opening like this, and that's the last we see of it. How are you feeling about Metroid Prime 4 Beyond? I hope it came across in this video that I'm really excited about it. I certainly had my expectations put into check, probably in a good way, and now I can't wait to play more. If you like this video, you might enjoy my sort of hands-on impressions to Kirby Air Riders. Spoiler alert, they're not quite as positive as this. Other than that, get down in the comments below, let me know how you're feeling, and have a good week.